Okay, here we go. Checking. Hey guys, this is Devin, if you didn't know that already. I'm a worship pastor at Newbury Park First Christian Church, and I play keys sometimes, I play electric sometimes, and I just wanted to give you a run-through of what I use, my gear. We'll start with the keyboard rig, and then we'll move to my electric rig, and we'll go from there. Okay, so first, keyboard rig. I'm running it's a MacBook Pro into a MIDI controller into an interface. So let's start with the computer, all right? So it's a MacBook Pro 15-inch, I don't know, i7, 16 gigs of RAM. It's just kind of barely enough to handle what I'm throwing at it. I'm running a program for Mac called MainStage 3. It's fantastic. It's a host program. It's got a ton of sounds built into it, which are fantastic. You don't need anything in addition to that if you don't want to, but I have purchased a few additional things, so I'll describe those to you. One of them is called Omnisphere 2. The other one is called Keyscape, and both of those, Omnisphere is like a synth engine, and Keyscape is like a vintage keyboard and piano sample powerhouse. I love Omnisphere and Keyscape combined. Between those two, I pretty much get any sound I want. And then, like I said, but there's tons of cool sounds built into MainStage too, so you don't need those two things, but that's what I use. The template that I'm using with MainStage is a template called Sunday Keys, all right, and I'll give you a link to that as well. It's a really well thought out and laid out template that I enjoy. And then I've purchased a few other things, like some keyboard sounds from Worship Essentials that I really like. Most of those that I've purchased just work with the sounds within MainStage 3. It's just people who have like fine-tuned and crafted these samples to sound really awesome. And so I purchased a few of those. I purchased a few presets for Omnisphere and Keyscape from Peter James at multitracks.com. Those are a few additional things. And I think that's it as far as my computer goes. Then it goes into this M-Audio Code 61 MIDI controller, which I love this thing. Okay, so first of all, the key bed, just the piano keys themselves, just feel awesome. Velocity is like perfect right out of the box. They're not like weighted keys, which I have a weighted keyboard controller in SL88 Studio, and I actually like this one better. Okay, so love the keys here. Then it's got this 16 pad thing off to the side, which I love mostly because it looks really cool and the colors are nice and bright and shiny. And so you can assign the colors, both the on button and the off button. So when I hit it, you can see the color light up, change, and it's awesome. And so I use that a lot, and then there's 9 faders, 8 encoders or buttons, or sorry, knobs. Knobs is the word I'm trying to say. But then there's banks of these things, so you can have like multiple more than just 8 faders and more than just 8 knobs, right? So you can have presets for this controller that build right in, that can like change MIDI assignments. It's fantastic, right? So love this thing. Then the audio coming out of my computer is going into a Focusrite Sapphire 6i6 interface, and that allows me to take some of the sounds that I'm using and split them up. So instead of just having a left and right kind of out of my computer, the Sapphire allows me to split it. So if I wanted to send like something that I'm doing with the pads to a different output, I can do that to give our sound tech more control. And sometimes I'll have an additional keyboard set up for another volunteer, and then I can use a different output for that keyboard. So I can have like 2 keyboard rigs running at the same time, just using one computer, and then having different outputs go through the interface. So I would recommend using an interface over just going directly out of the computer via the 1/8-inch headphone jack. So anyway, that's that. So I love this rig. It works really well. It sounds phenomenal, and have great results with it. I'm going to show you some sounds from this keyboard in just a moment, but let's talk about the guitar stuff. Okay, let's talk about the pedalboard first. Pedalboard. Lots of cool pedals. I've got the pedal list on my website. You can check that out. But basically, it's a custom-built pedal board, and the heart of it is this one control crocodile tail loop, otherwise known as the OC10, which is kind of a MIDI switcher and channel loop. So all my pedals kind of feed into this looper, and so I can hit one button and have it turn on and off any number of pedals and have it change the MIDI to my timeline and big sky, okay? I've got a couple really cool things going on with this board. First of all, let's look at the right side, the input section. Underneath the board, I have mounted a Line 6 G50 wireless guitar unit. And then I have two transmitters, one that I plug into my electric and the other that I plug into my acoustic. And I can turn one off and the other on, and it just automatically picks up that guitar. So if I wanted to switch guitars, I just turn the one off, turn the other one on, and it switches guitars automatically. So let's say my wireless thing goes out in the middle of a gig. I have a 1/4-inch input on the side that as soon as I plug something into that 1/4-inch jack, it bypasses my wireless unit. So I can do that in a pinch if I need to. So then that goes straight to the one control, the OC10, and then out of that I start using my loops. So the first thing in my loop is the Greer Lightspeed. It's an amazing, really light overdrive that sounds fantastic, just subtle breakup stuff. Then I'm going into the Bondi Effects breakers. Then I'm going into the Bondi Effects compressor. Then I'm going to the C.A.B from Bondi Effects. I love Bondi Effects. And then I'm going into the JHS Superbolt, amazing, dirty, gritty overdrive that sounds great. So let me just for a second, this philosophy, I have two of my kind of lighter overdrives going before the compressor, and then two of my maybe heavier overdrive sounds, at least that I've set up, going after the compressor. That's so that if I wanted to set up the C.A.B as like a boost that goes after the compressor, I can, sort of like a lead boost. Because I don't want my an overdrive that has a higher volume intentionally. I don't want that to be compressed, right? I want to have my compressor kind of do the work on the lower overdrive stuff and then still have some headroom after the compressor. So I have the best of both worlds. I have two overdrives before and two after. I love that setup, okay? So then after that overdrive section, then it goes to my volume pedal. And that's great so that when I do swells, basically it's an already distorted sound swelling in. I just prefer that. Then after that, it's going into the Nanopog, then a kind of DIY. I built the BYOC analog chorus. It's basically a Boss CE2 clone that sounds really juicy and delicious. It's great chorus. Chorus is totally coming back. It's great. And then after that, I have this Kingsley Squire, a preamp, and the 2 Notes Torpedo Cab. This is like my amp simulation, okay? So I don't have a physical amp, tube amp. This is my amp sound. So I have that in loop 8 so that I can design a preset that discludes the amp simulation. So if I wanted to put my acoustic on, I just create a preset without loop 8 in it, and that bypasses the amp simulation. Okay, so then after loop 8, then I go to, then it goes directly out of the OC10 into the H9, the timeline, and the big sky. The reason why those are outside of the OC10 is so that if I have delay tails or a reverb tail that I want to spill over into my next preset, I can do that. And then it just keeps on going. And that way, the delay and reverb sounds come after the amp, which is kind of like putting delay and reverb in your effects loop in your tube amp. It just sounds really good. The delays sound really clean. The reverb sounds really pure. And it's great to have that after. So basically the OC10 can, every time I recall a preset, it switches the preset on the H9, the timeline, the big sky, and the torpedo cab. So I can have basically like a different amp sound dialed in for a different presets, which is awesome, right? Let's say I don't want the H9 or the timeline or the big sky to have a sound for that particular preset. I just save a preset with the mix all the way down on those things. So you don't have to have a delay and a reverb all the time. You don't have to use the H9 all the time and still have your presets. By the way, after it comes out of the torpedo cab and or the OC10 and goes into the H9, I'm starting to have it go stereo. So it's a mono input to the H9 and then stereo out, a stereo through the H9 timeline Big Sky. So out of the Big Sky, then it goes into a little sweet box from Goodwood Audio called the Output version 2. So basically that takes my stereo signal and with a little flip of a switch can make it mono if I want to. Because like at our church, we don't have a stereo system for live use, and so there's no point in taking up 2 channels for that purpose. So I can flip it to mono. It instantly I can just pick one output on my direct box, and then it goes mono. But in the studio, I can switch it to stereo, and now I have the H9 stereo, the timeline, and the Big Sky are stereo, so I can record in stereo. It sounds great in stereo. I'll show you clips of that in a second. So then it goes from that output box to these 2 little cute A/B boxes that I hit at the same time, and that then goes either to the Pro D2 direct box for electric, or the JDI passive direct box for acoustic. I don't really ever care about using stereo on my acoustic, so this JDI has a mono sum button on it. So let's say I wanted to run stereo on electric but not acoustic. I can have the output still set to stereo, the little switch on the output, the Goodwood output thing, set to stereo. And then the JDI sees a stereo input, but then converts it to mono on its way out. So that's a great way to do that as well. So that's my rig. Oh, I have a Sonic Research Turbo Tuner ST200 as well. So that's that. I have just underneath the board, you'll see some pedal power supplies. I have a Pedal Power 2 Plus, and then a 4x4 as well. And then I'm using just a lot of crazy routing, and I have other power supplies mounted under there and everything. It's all crammed and great. So then on the left side of the board, I have these 2 1/4-inch jacks coming out. So I'm using the through puts on the electric DI and feeding those into the 1/4-inch jacks on the side of the board. So if I didn't want to use the amp simulation, but still wanted to run like stereo amps or even just mono amps, if I just wanted to run a real amp instead, I can just come straight out of that board, go into a real amp, and just bypass the Squire and the Torpedo, and just have a normal rig. And so it's super flexible. And it's great in the studio and live and for all kinds of purposes. And there's hardly any sound that I can't get out of this rig. Oh, I almost forgot. On the side of my board, there's 2 MIDI jacks, an in and an out. And this is super crazy. It's a little tricky. But basically what I've done is it allows me to just plug my Roland MIDI cable directly into the side of my board and hook up to my computer so I can run Strymon's Nixie preset editor just with my board. I don't have to like go on the back of my Strymons and unplug them and like plug MIDI cables, and it's all working in its own great system. And I accomplished that through this little box called a MIDI Solutions Through box, because it's super complicated, and Strymon doesn't want to see like the H9. Anyway, basically, I wanted to be able to take my pedal board, bring it into my office or at home, right? Set it in front of me and be able to edit the presets of my timeline and my Big Sky. So the MIDI jacks on the outside allow me to do that, and with this MIDI Solutions Through box, I'll probably set up like a diagram and an explanation of that somewhere else because it's a little complicated. I will just say, from a kind of a philosophy standpoint, why did I do this to my pedal board? Why did I use the OC10? It's because as someone who's a worship leader, not just a guitar player, I'm trying to engage the congregation on a Sunday morning or at conferences, retreats, or whatever. And I really can't afford to tap dance and just like, if I want to turn on like a different preset on the big sky and also hit the chorus and an overdrive at the same time, and then there's another part in the song that has the pog in it and the light speed. I physically can't tap dance that much. I can't focus on the pedal board and do that right in the middle of something. So this allows me to just press one button and all those things change at the same time, which allow me to be creative. And I can set all this up ahead of time. It allows me to be creative, have cool sounds, but not be distracted from the moment and not be pulled away from the audience, from the congregation, from what I'm trying to do from a leadership perspective. So the OC10 has like just totally changed the game for me as a worship leader, and I love it. Let's talk about my guitars. I have for acoustic, I've got an old junky Takamine guitar. I don't even know the model, but I put an LR Baggs Anthem pickup system in it, and it sounds decent. It's totally passable. And then for electric guitars, I've got a Duesenberg Star Player TV. Love that guitar, super great. And then I've got a PRS Custom 24 that my wife got me for a wedding present. Amazing. I put Tom Anderson pickups in it. Sounds great too for kind of different purposes. And then I've got this old beat up Mexican Fender Stratocaster that's just had a ton of little mods done to it over the years. It's got CWP P90 pickups in it. It's noisy as heck, but I love the tone. It sounds great. And those are my guitars. Let's talk for a quick second about my loop rig. So I use Multitracks, multitracks.com for most of my loops. I run a newer generation iPad with the playback app, and then I have with this little Apple camera converter thing, I'm running to a Keith McMillan soft step, which I can MIDI assign to all the songs in the playback app with the iPad, and I can basically hit song 1 and it goes to song 1, I hit song 2 and it goes to song 2. Play and pause and fade out and loop, and it's just great. So it's really reliable. I just go to the headphone jack, into a direct box, I pay on the loop and click, and it sounds great, and it's been working for a lot of years, just super solid on Sunday mornings and whatever else we're doing. So that's fantastic. I also have a little vocal pedal. It's just the TC Helicon Voice Live Play. It does some fun stuff. Adds some reverb and delay when I need it to. So that's pretty much all my gear. I'm sure you want to hear just some examples, some sound samples, and let's jump into that right now. Okay, so here's just a quick and rough patch that I created kind of for the chorus of Open the Heavens, using the pad section to fire this cool little loop during that. So I have a piano sound dialed in that kind of goes like this. And so if you act quick enough, you can kind of hit this as well. Okay, so that's that kind of feel. So with the loop, it sounds like this.
Chorus.
So quick and dirty, I probably messed up some notes, whatever, but that's the general idea. You can have one sound on the piano here, on the keyboard, and then another sound on the pad. And so, for this example, I have a couple sounds going on. I have this pad synth sound, and then I also have the piano sound. So I can just have the synth if I want. And add in the piano. So let me show you. I've got, on this particular patch, I have a couple things going on. With the samples section, I have the EXS24 sampler, which I've made my own sound. I've taken the multi-track of Open the Heavens and cut up that vocal chop section and made it into a playable note. And then I can pick which note I want to assign to that in the EXS24 editor. And it's great. So that's the way I do that here. And then for my piano sound, I'm using this Keyscape hard LA custom C7 piano. And there's lots of great pianos in there. So that's kind of for that song. Let's go on a different song. Let's do Real Love. There's so many keyboard parts, I can't tackle them all, but I was just going to tackle a few live, and so I created kind of the main arpeggiated part. It kind of has that alternating, bouncing back and forth thing, and so I assigned just this one key to bounce back and forth. And I can turn that off if I want, just mute it, so it just goes there. If I wanted to play it manually, but live it's kind of fun just to let it do its thing. So then I can kind of be free to engage. I can just hold the sustain pedal down, get people clapping, get people going. All right, so that's one sound, and then I kind of made another kind of like a side chained part that goes during the chorus. So my keyboard is split, so I have one section just going on this part of the keyboard, and then the verse section just going there. And then with the pads, I've set that up to be the vocal chop part. Again, I've taken the multi-track, I've cut down that little vocal lead line into pieces, added some reverb so that I can kind of make it a playable instrument live. So here's what it sounds like. So basically, I have two different pads that have the same sound. And you can also set up these pads so they stop when you let go, or they continue the sample even after you've let go. And so because for this first two sections, there's kind of like a little pause in between, I didn't want them to continue on. I wanted them to stop. And so that's how you can kind of get that feel live. And then because that one ends and I don't have to be holding it, I can hit that one and then go back to my other part. Kind of like that. So in context, here's what it sounds like.
1, 2, intro, 2, 3, 4.
that's basically that. So you can have 3 different kind of keyboard parts going, have some fun interacting with the audience live because you're actually doing that lead line, which often just gets delegated to the track, and can you lose some of that energy from the band, just because your congregation wants to feel that you're playing those things live. So that just gives you a really cool ability to do that. Let me just quickly show you, I don't know, just some other patches that I have loaded in. I kind of have this one piano pad set up here. So, it's just a great, simple piano. It's from Keyscape, very expressive. And then I have some of these, because of the Sunday Keys template, I have some of these knobs attached to like a reverb. So if I turn this up, adds more reverb. I can also add some delay with this fader. And so, for songs like This I Believe. And then you can just bring that down if you don't want the delay. And go into the chorus, for example. So, great piano sound. I also have a pad going with that. Again, so if I wanted to, just have the piano, maybe take off the reverb, a little bit of the reverb, and I could add in just a light pad to go with that. Again, having the faders right there is just great. So here's another patch I dialed in for Good Father, the Passion version. It's pretty complex. It's got Fender Rhodes, it's got a piano lead line, it's also got like a pizzicato cello in it in a pad, and so it's just very massive, but kind of the intro goes like this. All right, so it's cool, but then you can just bring it down into like a simple Fender Rhodes part. So it's great for underscoring and things like that if you just want to, have a light sound mixed with kind of your more epic sound, and then when you go back to the intro. So anyway, the MainStage, Sunday Keys, the M Audio, Code 61, it just all works together really well to just make a great solid keyboard rig. Now I just want to give you a few tiny little examples of what my electric guitar sounds like through the system. So I'm just going straight to the front of house, right out of the direct box here, and out of the 2 notes and the Squire and all that stuff. So direct rig, here we go. So here's a sound that I dialed in for Look to the Sun that makes use, I should say, of a dual delay. And so I'll show you the difference, what it sounds like between stereo and mono. So if you have a stereo system right now, it's running in stereo, kind of sounds like this. Okay, so that's stereo. Now, if I reach down and turn the Goodwood audio to mono, basically it's still coming out of both sides of the direct box. It's just that they're summed on both sides. And so if you just picked one on your soundboard, it would be totally fine. So let's hear how that sounds. So pretty different, right? So that's cool. But yeah, it's great to just have that option to go back and forth between stereo. So just for the sake of the demo, let's make it stereo because it's cool. So yeah, on that song, it's got a few different, little. But anyway, the guitar just sounds great naturally through the system. You don't need a whole lot, and I didn't take too much time to program the two notes. Like I said, it's noisy sometimes, but not because of the pedal board, primarily because of the guitar. It's got like what do you call it? Shielding issues, whatever. Okay, so for that sound, as you can see on the OC10 down here, I've got this little L1 button lit up right here, and then L3 and L8. So L1 is loop 1, which is the light speed. L3 is the compressor, and then L8, which it's on almost all the time when I'm doing electric stuff, is the Squire and the two notes. So that's what I have going through there. Then it's going to the H9, which I have a setting that's off. I'm not using the H9. Then going to the timeline through its dual delay engine, and then a little subtle reverb. Oh, let's see, reverb. And then it's going out through the direct box. Okay, so what you can see, the cool thing about the OC10, watch the H9, the timeline, the big sky, and the torpedo cab when I change a preset. All of them change. So now Eventide is 10. It just changed to Glorious Day on the timeline and big sky. It did change presets on this too, but I have it all set up for the same preset. But that's great. You can dial in different amp tones. So this is a song, Glorious Day, for example, that I love having the OC10 because on this song, I have a different kind of delay and reverb set up just for this, and I wanted to use like a different overdrive. So like for this main overdrive sound, it's just this big, beefy overdrive sound, right? But then for verse 3, there's this cool little line that goes like that, right? And if I were to not have this OC10, I couldn't do all those things at the same time live. I couldn't switch both Big Sky and the timeline and turn off the one overdrive, turn on the compressor, turn on another overdrive, all those crazy. I couldn't do that all at once. So now it allows me to be creative because I can go straight from big chorus, straight from the big chorus, and then right into verse 3. Which is just awesome. And then I can use that sound for kind of the beginning intro swells. It's cool. I've just got a I don't know, maybe a shimmery of reverb and then like a dual delay thing, and it's just cool to be able to do that. Let's look and see if I have any more presets. Yeah, I have one more. We did like the Bethel version of This Is Amazing Grace, right? And there's this cool guitar part in there that has this really strong tremolo, but you can't just have that on for the whole song. So I dialed in a few different ones. Dialed in one that's just kind of like an ambient sound. Lots of juicy reverb. And then this other one turns on the tremolo on the H9. Kind of, that has that part in it. And then when it gets really big chorus, I don't know. I don't actually play that lead part, but just jamming away on the chords, And then back to the, with just the press of one button. That's the glory of the OC10 and this rig that I just love. So that's kind of my gear rundown. I hope you guys enjoyed it, got something out of it. If you have any questions, post in the comments. Check out my website, devinbumstead.com. If you're not on there right now, you can send me a message. Love to talk shop with you, all things worship. Anyway, it was great hanging with you guys. Take care. God bless. Love you all. Bye-bye. Peace.